Good morning, everybody. Happy Sunday, June 11th. Welcome to TGI Sports Talks. Nope, not Are You Serious? It's our Sunday stream of consciousness. Just trying to see who's paying attention. Great to have you all with us this morning. I wonder if you guys are actually aware how quickly I transitioned from guesting on Mac and Jack. Let me get rid of this music. From 8:05 or whatever to 8:30 on a dot. Then I get over here so I can start this show for you guys. Happy to be here. Beautiful weekend here in the Northeast so far anyway. Mid-70s. Closed on the house, by the way, the new house, the new townhouse Friday. Up there working a lot yesterday. Got the internet hooked up. I got some carpet in the basement. And my new desk set up, so you won't see this shaking in a couple of weeks, hopefully. We'll be moving on June 30th. This house here we're in is sold in less than 36 hours, or I'm sorry, less than 48 hours. We're happy about that. So lots of good stuff going on here in the TGI Sports Talk personal world. And we still got a little bit of work to do before we move in, and a little bit of work to do here to get packed, but not much. We're getting close. Lots going on. Welcome to everybody on Northeast Streaming Sports. Let's talk sports. The sideline sports, where you may see us. I don't know exactly what content they're taking for this show, but I know quite a few shows have been up, and I appreciate that, and I'm very happy to be part of that, along with the Let's Talk Sports Nation, if you will. Couple other things. Catch us on Are You Serious, obviously, on Fridays. What else we got going on? We'll be back with the Sports College show probably in the middle of July once I get settled. I may do a one-off, and maybe I'll do it Wednesday if I have time. I'm trying to put this together so that we can talk College World Series, which we're going to do here real quick before we have Jim Beringer come in at 9 o'clock. I want to talk a little bit about the College World Series and with our Wake Forest, favorite Wake Forest sports announcer, Larry Sorensen, former Major League Baseball player. And you can catch my weekly vlog. I'm trying to get those going again. I've been a little lax, I guess, because nothing's really been ticking me off that much, even though it may not seem that way on this show. But we did do one this week about the hypocrisy of the PGA Tour merging with LIV. So very, very upset about that. Good morning, CA. Good to have you with us. You just beat Drew in. Oh, I forgot Friday's 3 p.m. That's, I sometimes forget that. So we do have the Friday afternoon block, which is exclusively Let's Talk Sports stuff. So we do the Major League Baseball update on Friday. Thank you, Drew. And also Let's Talk New York Sports with Dan Harris. Don't know how I forgot that show. I knew I'm a lot busier than what I just said. Anyway, we'll be getting back into full force and testing our bandwidth, our personal bandwidth, even more once we get back into college football. We're really going full hog once we get into August. But we'll start up the Wednesday show again. Today we're going to get into, I want to talk a little on the College World Series, the women of Oklahoma winning their third straight championship. We'll get into the NHL with Jim Beringer at 9-ish. Talk whether the Vegas goes up 3-1 yesterday, whether the Panthers have any shot. I think the layoff for the Panthers hurt them. It's funny, it didn't seem to hurt the Nuggets in the NBA, but it certainly hurt Vegas. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about the Rangers coaching search continuing and some other news around the NHL. And then we'll get into Major League Baseball, and lots of talk there. We'll get to it a little bit later, probably 9:20, 9:30-ish. We'll get into the injuries. There's some major injuries around Major League Baseball with Judge, Alonso, Chris Sale, who's starting to get his form back, goes on a DL, and lots of other guys. We'll talk about some of that. We'll go around the league and look at the standings. I found an article on some coaching rankings we might take a look at. And we'll go, we're going to get close to the trading deadline soon. We'll see what happens, I think. And we'll talk about Alan's Rangers. Good morning, Alan. You missed me. I tried to get you. You're probably busy. I know that, but I don't know if you heard me when we were talking on Are You Serious a little bit. I know you were trying to get into some Rangers questions that I just couldn't get to, but I did talk more about the Rangers on the Major League Baseball show at 3:00. And listen, your team, I give you credit. You're playing well. The offense is just tremendous. You know that I had a big problem, and I don't want to get into this just yet. We'll get into it at 9:30. But I'm impressed with their offense, especially. Still a little worried about the pitching. Starting pitching a little thin. The bullpen does not have enough swing and miss guys either, in my mind. And then we'll talk some NFL if we have time about Hopkins and Cook, 2 stars looking for new teams. We'll see where we go from there. So, real quick, I think this morning I want to get into. We're gonna cover a little bit. That's not the one I want. We don't want that. Mark Mancini, I got a call with Mark Mancini this week. I'm not sure what he's up to, but we do miss him here and there. We'll get him back for some football. Anyway, I've gone through pretty much all my banners. College World Series. And before I get into the men, I want to congratulate, and we don't talk enough. Kenny Gifford always reminds me, I don't talk enough about the women's sports. And congratulations to the Oklahoma women. 3 straight national championships or World Series victories, if you will. I do think they call it the World Series of softball, college softball, I think. And they won their last 53 games. That's not easy, guys. Very few teams in sports history, college history have done that. You know, you think about the UCLA Bruins in college basketball who won 70, I want to say 72 straight. I could be wrong about that. Good morning, Rick. Good to have you with us. And Kenny didn't make it early, so he's not going to hear this conversation about the women of Oklahoma, so he'll probably bring it up again later, and we'll dive into it if we have to. But I want to congratulate them. Don't want to ignore, the women. I don't purposely ignore them. You know, when there are things to talk about, we do it. So, NCAA tournament. Oh, where'd my, there we go. So yesterday, there's 8 teams left, by the way, in the Super Regionals. These are 2 out of 3 matches. 8 of these teams will go to Omaha to play in the College World Series. And I do believe the 8 teams will be determined by tomorrow. A couple have already clinched, which we'll get into here right now as I go through yesterday's scores and the matchups. Number 1, Wake Forest, who we're rooting for our friend Larry Sorensen, who's been a good friend of this show for a long time. They're the number 1 seed in this tournament, by the way, at 51-10 now. They beat Alabama in game 1 of their series. They lead 1-0, a tough, hard-fought 5-4 game. After we were doing some work at the new house yesterday, we stopped to have a bite to eat at Junior's down the road here, one of my favorite places that I'm going to miss being down the street. And watched the last few innings of this game. Really well played game and an enjoyable game to watch. But they win 5-4, and we'll be rooting for them. Florida beats South Carolina, number 2 Florida against number 15 South Carolina. These are the tournament seeds, by the way. 4-0 they win. They win their second game, and they advance to Omaha. LSU plays Kentucky 14-0. They demolished Kentucky. This is the 5 over the 12. They lead that series 1-0. Virginia comes back and beats Duke after losing the first game. They win 14-4 yesterday. They're the 7 seed. And for whatever reason, I don't have a seed next to Duke. It's very interesting. I wonder if they're... That's interesting. I mean, there might have been unseeded teams, I guess, in the regionals. So, in any event, they lose. They're tied 1-1. They'll have their championship game will be played either today or tomorrow. Texas beats Stanford. That's Texas unranked as well. Very surprisingly, beats number 8 Stanford. That's 1-0 for Texas. TCU, they had their way to the World Series by sweeping Indiana State one of the dark horses here, 14 seed 14. TCU 6-4 in that game. Oregon loses to Oral Roberts, two unseeded teams, 8-7. That series is tied at 1. We rooted for Oral Roberts a lot in the college basketball tournament. Maybe we can root for them here a little bit. And Southern Miss beats Tennessee. I'm sorry, this game was suspended, so that'll get picked up later today, I'm assuming. Suspended, I think, due to darkness. Unsure. I doubt it was darkness, Keith. Anyway, 4-0. So that's the. Actually, you got a couple of teams on their way to the College World Series. These series, as I said, 2 games out of 3. And when you get to the College World Series, now you're playing a round robin format and double elimination. So it'll be very interesting. Then you'll have winners and losing brackets after you get to that. So interesting stuff. Alan, by the way, a big fan, obviously, of OU and OU softball. 175-8 over the last 3 seasons. That's a great stat, Alan. You know, that's just a remarkable run. And all 3 of these seasons, I said, ending up in national championships. Great stuff. Can't say enough about them. Well done, and I'm sure they're probably well situated to continue this dynasty. 53 straight, as I said. If I don't have that number wrong, Alan, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but 53 straight. Fantasy baseball. Rick, from the highest high to a stinker. How quick things can change. They can. You know, it's funny. I've been trailing all week. I'll probably lose because every time I talk about this, I was down a lot this week. So things can change. I'm now in a tie with Bobby Dazzler. Didn't make a trade with Drew. First trade I've ever made in this league. Not a lot of trades get made. In fact, I had told Drew I thought it was the first trade that had been made since I've been in his league, and he corrected me that he made one early in the year that I must have missed. But I think we both traded 2 players we absolutely hate, because I hate Starling Marte. He has not produced for me, or he's hurt, one or the other. I traded him for Bobby Witt today, so we'll see. Bobby Witt struggling a little bit, does have some power and some speed, so we'll see how that goes. Alan, one of our his co-hosts, I should say, on our baseball show is an LSU fan, so that's my rooting team now. Well, there you go. That's a good reason to do it. Actually, there was an article on ESPN about whether I doubt I can find it. Let me see if I can find it quick. If I go to this, I haven't read the whole thing. The question is LSU better than the entire Mets farm system? How the Tigers got so stacked. LSU's really good. And LSU, by the way, was part of, I shouldn't say part of, but they were pulled into the betting scandal at Alabama. It was an Alabama LSU game that had questionable transactions happening on some of the gambling sites, and the Alabama manager was summarily fired for that. Since Oklahoma and K-State are out, Oral Roberts, there you go. You got a Oklahoma rooting interest there, Alan. That's good. And they've got a chance, so they've got to win today or tomorrow, whatever the game is. I believe these 3-game series wrap up by tomorrow, and then the super regionals. I had this up. Let me see if I can find it quickly. I want to get the dates for you guys since we're talking about this, and I'll go back to your comments. So these the super regionals end on the 12th, which is tomorrow. The College World Series starts on the 15th, which is, I believe, Thursday. It does. And then the finals, the College Baseball World Series finals, which will be 2 games out of 3, by the way. Once you get there, you start with a clean slate. So that'll be interesting to see. I enjoy. It's really good baseball. If you like to watch good baseball, it's really good baseball. So it'll be a lot of fun, and we will be rooting for Larry Sorensen and his team. At least, sorry, Alan, but Rick took that shot at you today, not me. At least OU is good in something. Listen, OU should be better in football. I'm going out on a limb. I've already said Texas will win the Big 12 on their way out. If I'm going to give you a backup and qualify my statement, I'll say either OU or Texas will win the Big 12 on their way out. I did do it. 2 trades last year, 3 the year before. I guess I don't pay attention to the transactions other than my own. It's hard to make it. It's hard to make a trade. Take a look, Drew, because I think I did. I don't have it pending anymore. I hit it. I got Bobby Witt on my team now. I have Bobby Witt on my team. So take a look, Drew. I see him on my roster right now. But it's fun to make a trade. I know Drew and I tried to make a trade a couple of years ago, or maybe it was in last year. I don't remember. No, it couldn't have been last year because Trevor Story was involved. And Lindor was really stinking it up for the Mets his first year, much like he is this year. And I was not interested in Lindor for Story, if I remember my facts right, which I don't always do. Why not play at a neutral site? Oh, yeah, money and manipulation, ability, corruption. TCU shouldn't have been allowed to host. I don't necessarily disagree, CA. At least I don't have a strong enough disagreement to debate this, I guess. Most of college basketball's tournaments do not allow for home field advantage, if you will. You're going to see some of that in the NFL, or I'm sorry, in the college football expanded playoff. You're going to see some home teams playing. To me, I think they all ought to be neutral fields. But the problem is, as you just said, it's about money more than manipulation. I don't know about corruption. In this case, believe me, I'm not going to eliminate the word corruption as it relates to the NCAA because we know there's plenty of it there. But in this case, I'm not so sure it could be about manipulation a little bit, but it's more about money. They want to put people in these stands. That's what they want to do. They need to make money, and that's why you're going to see it in football as well, at least in the early round or the first round of that tournament. So we'll see how that goes. You want to talk about money, you don't have to look any further than the PGA Golf Tour to see what people will do for money. LSU is better than Oakland. They're probably better than Oakland and the Royal. I don't know. We always have this debate in football too, right? Could the best college football teams, Georgia the last couple of years, Alabama in their heyday, and whoever happens to be the big dog, could they go beat the worst team in the NFL? Experts' answers always no. And I would agree. Because many of the players on Georgia, let's say, or LSU in this case, are professional level players, everybody, theoretically, everybody on an NFL team is NFL caliber. So I'm not so sure that'll matter. Good morning. Promote your podcasts. Cache wants. I know you've reached out to me several times about promoting the podcast, and I do appreciate it. And maybe we'll do some business later. I'm not right now interested in investing dollars in promoting the podcast. I know you can do wonders, and at some point we might talk about that, but we continue to do it. Our numbers are what they are. As long as my views on all the platforms stay. Listen, each show, when you factor in Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and then rebroadcast, every show's getting close. If I do the shares that I normally do, sometimes I don't have time and don't get the shares out there. So when I don't do the shares, they're in the hundreds, whatever, total. And then if I do get a bunch of shares, we put each show to probably 1,000 views, which isn't terrible. We're getting close to 2,000 followers, and I do want to grow this family. But I'm gonna rely on you guys to continue to invite your friends. Go and invite your friends, and not trying to take business away from a cash here. And if I'm saying you're wrong, your name wrong, I apologize. If you guys who are watching me week in and week out, show in and show out, get out there and just go to your friends list, or you don't go to your friends list, you go to TGI Sports Talk's page. There's 3 little dots that give you some options. One of them is invite friends. You can invite all your friends to the show. And if you've done it so far, thank you. And if you haven't, please take a few minutes and do it. Just don't invite, 1,000 at a time, because you'll get blocked. Not blocked from Facebook, but blocked from doing it for a while. Take 100 at a rip and do it. Drew says, apparently I did, but there's a waiting period. There was. And, you just allowed it to go through. Hence, you're just seeing it just now. Okay. I did click it. And when I didn't see it update right away, I went back and clicked it again, and it told me that it was no longer pending, so I could not accept it a second time. Oh, ISU is a host team. I got you. Either way, though, I mean, my comment's still the same. Let me go back here. You're talking about Indiana State? Let me go back to my scoreboard here. Oop, wrong one. I want to be on... How did I get on MLB over here? Jeez, good grief. Here we go. So, really ticking me off, ESPN. Oh, I see. No, this game... Well, not the way I read this. ISU is a host team. Oh, well, I see. So you're saying that maybe let me get this straight. You're saying ISU is a host team, but TCU is allowed to be the home team? That I get. That is a little wonky right there. That, again, you know what? CA, it's the NCAA. As you said in your comments, whether it's corruption or incompetence, sometimes it's hard to tell the difference when it comes to the NCAA. Don't badmouth Oakland. They've won 4 in a row. What's their pace now, Drew? We'll get into that when we get into the baseball in a half hour or so. Oakland has won 4 in a row, nearly matching their win total for the year, most likely. I know they've been on a pace for like 130 losses or 131 losses. 31 wins, however you want to look at it. I'm going out on a limb and say they're still on a pace to break the record of 120 losses. So, who are you going to trade? Maybe we'll talk about this in the baseball and think about it. Should every team get a representative? This has been this way for decades. Should every team get a representative in the All-Star game? I mean, why should somebody from Oakland or Kansas City, who's less deserving from somebody from, I don't know, let's just say Texas, because some of these teams are going to have guys left off that were deserving. They're going to get left off because we had to take somebody from Oakland. We had to take somebody from the Royals. Every other team could probably come up with a good player to send. I don't know that these two teams can. I was looking at the Oakland roster, and I don't see how they can. Rick, definitely not. The difference between college and semi-pro and the huge is, it is huge, without a doubt. It's funny that when that argument comes up, and it comes up nearly every time you have which is almost every year, where you have a super dominant college football team, could they beat the worst team in the NFL? The answer is always going to be no. And that difference, that's huge, Rick, is just the one I mentioned. Every single guy on, I don't know, who's the worst team? The Texas, the Houston Texans is a pro-level player. Alabama might have a couple of players that are better than anybody on that team, but they're not going to win. So, What do we got here? A few minutes. I want to talk real quick because we may not get to it. The NBA, we'll jump in quick and get that out of the way before we go to Jim Beringer here at 9 o'clock ish. The Denver Nuggets have gone up 3-1, heading back to tomorrow night. I believe they play tomorrow night, game 5 in Denver. Guys, in my mind, the series is over. Miami has nothing to be ashamed of. Eric Spoelstra, still in my mind, the most underrated, if not the best coach in the NBA. He's got here using big minutes for 5 undrafted guys, 5, to get this far is a great coaching job. Jimmy Butler, there's been nights he's willed this team to victory. There's nights that he doesn't quite show up, which is why I don't think Jimmy Butler's a superstar. But Jokic is showing that he's the best player in the NBA in my mind. I mean, Embiid might have won the MVP, but he's not better than Jokic. He's just not. You watch this guy play. You look at him and you think, but this guy looks like he's, going to be klutzy and whatnot. I watched him make a play under the basket the other night that was crazy. So the supporting cast, you take away, and so Adebayo's done a great job he's played well himself in the series. I think he's probably played better than Butler in this series. But he can't go out to the top of the key and match up with Jokic. And Jokic operates underneath. He operates at the top of the key. He's a point center. And the team showed the supporting cast is better because when Jokic got in foul trouble in game 4, they totally took the game in hand and finished off the Heat, really. And Jokic and Murray the other night, I think they may have become the first. I don't want to say they're the first. Well, they're one of the few. If they weren't the first, they're one of the few player teammates who scored triple doubles in the same NBA championship finals game. They're just really good. I have my question. I think Murray's a great player. I have my questions that Murray would be as good a player without Jokic. Because that's the thing about Jokic. And it's a thing about the great NBA players is, do you make the players around you better? You can talk about James Harden all you want. And again, when he was in his prime, he's past his prime, by the way. But he didn't make players around him better. Westbrook never made players around him better. LeBron did. You can say what you want about LeBron, but LeBron made players better around him. But nobody in the NBA today, in my mind, does it better than Jokic. He's just amazing. What do we got here? I missed a couple. I don't know why. What we got here? This is probably back to, yes, they know conflicts can occur, but refuse to have rules in place. So I got what you're saying here. No, that makes sense. I mean, look at, when it comes to NCAA sports, they've always left things ambiguous so that they can manipulate, to use your word, things the way they want to, whether it's for TV ratings, whether it's to get more people in the stands, whether it's is it to get the right teams where they want them to go and advance? That's taking it a little too far, probably, but anything's possible today. Number 1 teams win the NBA title. Hard to complain about that. It's always frustrating to see a team play 82 games great and then fold in the playoffs. Yeah, I agree, but everybody loves an underdog story, right? I mean, the Heat are only the second 8 seed ever to make the NBA playoffs. And the Nuggets weren't the best team necessarily in the NBA, Drew, if I remember. Let me go back to the standings here. They weren't even number 1 in the West. Unless I'm wrong. They were, because the West was much more balanced. Sorry, they won 53 games. I was thinking they weren't. They're the number 1 team in the West. They're not the number 1 team in the league. I mean, if we want to go by what we thought were best by record, which doesn't always speak to who was the best team. The Bucks were the best team. The Celtics were second best, and then the Heat, and then the Nuggets. It's funny because of all the upsets. There was a lot of upsets in this NBA final, or I should say playoffs leading up to the finals. 4 higher seeds went out in the first round, which is unusual. The Bucks went out early. Memphis went out early. So you had all these crazy upsets. And it's similar to the NCAA tournament. You had a lot of chaos early on, and then, the ship kind of gets righted, and you play more to the chalk comes to the top, right? And the Nuggets have kind of shown that they are the class of the NBA in my mind. I haven't seen every team play, obviously, all year. A lot. Anyway, but the Nuggets are the best team I've seen play all year. The best team. So I'll agree with you on that. And I think that's where the NBA wants, is the best teams to win. And this will be the Nuggets' first NBA championship. And that's a lot of years with a dry spell. They came into the NBA and the ABA-NBA merger in 75, 76, whenever that might have been. So you're talking almost 50 years of frustration. They've never even made an NBA final. They had some really good teams over those years, but never made an NBA final. So they haven't won yet, but I think they will wrap it up tomorrow night. And it'll be well-deserved. And I hope the Nuggets of the past enjoy this final ride, and I hope they get there. Sports is a micronism of our dilemmas, governmental and education. Well, I don't disagree. We're not going to dive in that deep today, CA, but I don't disagree. I've gone off a few times on a few of my shows on different topics when it comes to some of these things you're mentioning, and I agree. And by the way, it can also be helpful in helping to turn around some of those issues that we suffer from as a whole in this country, right? Again, sports used to teach youth, about how about how to get ahead in life, not give people participation trophies and such. You don't learn how to succeed in life by just being given trophies for showing up. So anyway, that's just my quick take on that, which you probably heard me say a couple hundred times, if not a couple thousand. Elsewhere in the NBA, a lot of rumors too about Damian Lillard being traded from the Trailblazers, and the Heat are going to be, if they decide to move on from him, the Heat will be very heavily involved. I think for this team, it's imperative that they go out and get a player like Damian Lillard. He mentioned him specifically. He mentioned 2 teams. The second one's escaping me. I doubt it's the Knicks. But he did mention the Heat specifically. If he was traded, one of the 2 teams he would like to go to. And also, by the way, the Raptors have hired Grizzlies assistant Darko Rajakovic, got to be the way you say it, right, Drew? Darko Rajakovic to be their head coach. He's been in this country since 2012 when he came from Serbia to coach in the G League, and then he's done he's made some stops in Oklahoma City, I should say, as Alan probably knows, and also with the Suns and the Grizzlies. And now he's been elevated. He was actually the top assistant with the Grizzlies here most recently, and now he will take over the Raptors, who the management thinks they should be a contender. So we'll see how that goes. Just a reminder, that was my first comment on my first time comment. That was my first comment on my first time. Wow. I'm having trouble getting my head around this comment. Just a reminder, that was my first comment on my first time commenting. I think I understand what you're saying there. Um, what else? We're waiting for Jim Barrier to pop in here in a couple of minutes. We'll talk some NHL. Hopefully, Jim will be with us. And if he's not, anyway, I guess we'll start talking a little bit NHL right now. Is there any fillers we want to put in? I don't want to talk about the MLB yet or the NFL. We'll save that for the last hour. Let me just see if there's any other NBA news or college news. Let me go at college football real quick since we were on college before. Talk about the Big 12 playing in Mexico in a bowl game. There's got to be a bowl game in Mexico first. KU and Houston are going to play in basketball. Big 12 is going to unveil a new schedule, a Flex Protect Plus schedule model in 2024. Listen, these big super conferences now are going to have a lot of trouble scheduling. I don't like these big school or big volume of schools because in a league, you ought to be playing everybody in your league once, and there's no way to do it, obviously. They can't even play, every other year you can't play teams. You're going to lose natural rivalries. The bigger you get, the more it goes. SEC, Big 10, Big 12, once they expand, they're talking about expansion again this summer. My big problem is you lose a lot of natural rivalries in these situations. So Big 12 is going to have to do a lot of the rescheduling. I read an article yesterday that I think it was UCLA. Well, I guess it doesn't matter because they're both going to be closed. Either UCLA or USC football teams are going to travel 26,000 miles to play their schedule their first year in the Big Ten. Man, these games. Oh, I see. So what the Big Ten's looking to do is protect some of their historic rivals, right? They're going to protect Michigan, Ohio State. They're going to protect UCLA, USC, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Indiana, Purdue, Michigan State, Michigan, Iowa, Minnesota, Illinois, Northwestern, Iowa, Nebraska, Maryland, and Rutgers. Everybody wants to protect that game. If I was in Big Ten, I'd want to protect every game with Rutgers. Iowa, Wisconsin, Illinois, Purdue. I don't know. Aren't there other games that are important? Just too many teams you won't play for 2 or 3 years when you get to these crazy schedules. I wanted to find that total on who would be doing that traveling. A couple of the notes. Michigan in 2024 will go to USC, which will mark its first trip there since 1958. And USC will also visit Penn State for the first time since 1994. Interesting. The NCAA also, Charles Baker also said the new head of the NCAA said he wants a federal law to regulate the way college athletes can be compensated for endorsement deals. That creates a registry of deals, agent certification, and uniform contract standards. This should have been done before anything was allowed. You can't let the schools run this operation. It just cannot be done. But at least Charlie Baker's, taking the right approach as he heads into this office. What do we got here? Week 2 of last NFL season anniversary coming up. Week 2 of last NFL season anniversary coming up. Morning, Kenny. Good to have you with us. The Perth community is special to me. Obviously, all my listeners are. Those who are with us this morning, Drew and Alan and CA, don't feel left out. But the Perth community has a very special feel to it, and always has, especially to us that live there and grew up there. Big 12 moves are more towards, and Kenny, I did give props to the the Oklahoma women's softball team for winning their third straight national championship or World Series of softball, whatever they're calling it these days, and finishing off a 53-game winning streak. Big 12 moves more towards becoming a dominant basketball conference. This is true because Gonzaga's in these discussions. Arizona, Washington might be involved in these discussions. But there's still a football consideration because football is still rules, right? Almost all of these realignments that happen, and maybe the Big 12 will be the exception a bit because of how they're taking this. I don't know how they're bringing Gonzaga in, and they probably won't play in football, but that'll be a different situation. I wonder if Jim messaged me or anything. I don't see anything. But anyway, we'll see if Jim pops in here or not. Where was I? Oh, yeah. Most of these are driven by football. You know, the ACC, when they first had all kinds of realignment, it was football. Big Ten, football. SEC, football. And the basketball program just have to go along with it. Syracuse's demise in basketball was the fact that they had to go to the ACC, where they don't have a fan base, where they don't have a recruiting base. And they lose all their natural rivalries with the New York City teams and Georgetown, Boston College moved at the same time or a year before. It's very funny that I remember when BC moved to the ACC, they kind of did it on their own. Before anybody else had moved from the Big East. I think they went along with maybe Miami. But I was at a football game at Syracuse, BC. Josh Beekman was playing at BC at the time. And Syracuse was just deriding Boston. The Syracuse fans were riding them all game about traders leaving the league, blah, blah, blah. And a year later, guess who follows them? Off the major sports, the Shen girls. Shen had 6 girls drop from. This is an interesting story locally. I heard a lot about this, I think Thursday. They had 6 girls drop off their team as they were going to the state finals out on Long Island because they had the prom the next night. They weren't going to drop off the team. They were told they couldn't be on the team, just to be clear. And I'm going to bring Jim here in a second. Let me just comment on this. So we can go back to this afterwards. But the facts were the girls wanted to go play in Friday's game, but they weren't going to play in Saturday's game, which was going to be played, I believe, at 12 noon. And it would have had a 4.5-hour ride home to get to the prom. So they said they wanted to go and play in Friday's game, but if they made the final, they didn't want to play. A lot of the division here locally about whether that's a good thing. The school said, no, you can't go at all. So the schools really made a decision. And they did lose 1-0 in 11 innings in the championship. So they made the finals without these 6 girls, and then they lost the final without them as well. So again, you know, it's tough for kids to have to make those decisions. Proms are important, but you make a commitment to a team, I think you probably should fulfill it. And let me just get these here quick. Oh, the first time on my show. I got you. Thank you, CA. And I appreciate that. You always need to set your priorities. I played a Colonials game that night I was married. I remember you telling that story before, Rick. Anyway, let's bring in our favorite NHL analyst, Mr. Jim Beringer. How are you, Jim?
What's going on, Keith?
From Full Press Hockey and Let's Talk Sports, obviously, the great Jim Beringer. I'm doing well. Hope you're doing well as well. Air good down there?
I'm doing well.
How's the air down there today?
The air's been a lot better these last 2 days. A lot better.
Yeah, cleared up here too on, I guess, Friday, pretty much. And yesterday was, I don't think, anything. So
yesterday was probably the best day you had in a long time. So
for sure.
But yeah, Stanley Cup final. We're still talking about it. And we're got a team a win away from us hoisting the Stanley Cup.
Yeah, it's first of all, I mean, has this series gone? I mean, I was going to say, but let me ask you this first. I'll ask you in combination. Has the series gone the way you expected it? And we talked on it a little bit, and I think it's pretty obvious. It looks like the layoff hurt the Panthers more than, say, it hurt the Nuggets in the NBA. For whatever reason, their momentum just was snapped, and I think it hurt this team more than – because they came out, again, a good team, as you said, last year, President's Cup and whatnot. But still, they were on a remarkable roll in an underdog role this year, and I thought the layoff really hurt them. What are your thoughts on that now as we've gone through 4 games, and has this series gone the way you expected so far?
I mean, coming in, if anybody listened to anything I said or read or whatever, I told you Vegas was the better team. I said Vegas was a bigger team. I said Vegas was a skillful team. I expected yeah, absolutely. And I'll be out again today too. Got to get those hockey legs, keep those hockey legs.
There you go.
But Vegas was the bigger team, faster team, deeper team, all that. Florida's found their game, no doubt. Bobrovsky's found his game. The first couple of games in Vegas, yeah, definitely in the third period, I think the rust was there. I definitely saw it. Vegas was coming off a couple of days only, and, Florida was still trying to figure it out. And then game 2 was complete blowout. Game 3, see, here's the difference. I think in games 3 and 4 down in Florida, I think Vegas tried to play too defensive-minded. And instead of playing the game when they had a lead, which was attack, and you saw that at times yesterday. In game 4, I thought Vegas was definitely a better team, but they survived. And Aiden Hill was a big reason that they survived. And I'm going to use the word survived because that's what they did. Because Florida was coming because they were sitting back on their heels. The Vegas team in the second period that put 2 goals in like 3 minutes and 50 seconds, I was wondering when that push was coming. Like, it was 1-0. They get that first goal. I was like, okay, when's the second goal coming? And then they kind of laid back a little bit, allowed Florida to stay in the game, stay around. The shots on Bobrovsky weren't great. He was making saves. It was similar to what we saw game 2 in the Eastern Conference Final. Okay, it's 1-0. It's a win for Florida. I tweeted out about before the run started. I was like, when is this Vegas team going to make the push that we all expect them to make the push? And then it came. Stevenson, Carlson, then they were dominating play. And then Florida found their game because, again, I'll say it. As a player, my coach said this to me, everybody's throw pucks on net, good things happen. Takes double doinks off 2 skates and then in the net. And from there, Florida started to roll. And again, Aiden Hill played great. Vegas had a nice push late in the period to get the momentum back. But again, it's gone the way I've expected it to go because I picked Vegas. Not to say that, I didn't think Florida had a chance, but I thought just because the depth of Vegas, there was just too much. And you can see it, 10 different goal scorers. Also, injuries are catching up with this Panthers team.
Yeah. Is this over? I mean, can they go to Vegas and actually win this game? I mean, again, anything can happen. We know that. We've seen anything happen in this Stanley Cup playoff. It just does not feel like they can travel across the country, play Tuesday night, and win this game.
I will say this. If this game was Monday night, I'd give them a better chance.
Yeah, really.
I would give them a better chance to win Monday if the game was Monday night. I really would, because what happened at the end of game 4 reminded me what happened at the game 4 in round 1 against Boston. And they were able to build off that. With 2 days off, everybody just settles down just a little bit. That momentum you lose, because Vegas lost the momentum they had with the 2-day break. Going into game 3, they were a little flat. They didn't have it. I expect Vegas to come out and try to end game 5 in the first period. That's what I expect. Because they want to party with the Stanley Cup, this time, not with the visiting team. And look, Florida, I mean, you can never count them out, but this is a better team than Boston. And Vegas doesn't fall into that trap. Yeah, they did at the end of the game 4, okay. But then Montour comes in, hits somebody in the Hill. Hill doesn't like it. Kachuk's been in his face all night. So everybody's going to throw punches, and that's how we're going to end game 4. And by the way, stay classy, Florida, by the way. Just stay classy.
Good point. CA says he remembers his first comment to you. East may be better overall, but the West still has a class at the top. Still agree? Well, you don't agree. Do you agree with that comment now after the fact?
I mean, look, the Vegas – look, I said this. Vegas was the most under the radar number one team.
You did.
In the playoffs. They were the most under the radar team in the playoffs. Nobody really knew because of the goaltending with Laurent Brossoit and everything. Maybe we should have seen it coming, but we didn't because you had Toronto, you had Boston, you had all these top teams in the East. The East was so top heavy this year, and it was going to be a war to get there. When Vegas got by Edmonton, and I was like, okay, here's Vegas. Here we go. This is the team I expected, and now here we are. They're a win away from a Stanley Cup for the first time in franchise history.
Their second trip to the finals, right? And
second trip to the finals. And think about this, right? Somebody brought this up to me, a good point, on one of my podcasts. They were a guy from Vegas I had on, Willie G. Ramirez. He said this to me. He said, if Alex Tuch scores against Braden Holtby in 2018, we might be talking about Vegas trying to win their second Stanley Cup in franchise history.
5 years? Is this their fifth season? Or
Sixth season.
Sixth season. Okay.
So just think about that for a minute. And Hill's made 2 game-changing series saves already. And it was the end of Game 4 against Tkachuk. And there was like 4 bodies in front. And he gets his pad out. And you don't even – Tkachuk's got a nice shot. And he instinct gets his pad out in the net the night before. And look, Matthew Tkachuk is not the same player. He took a big hit in Game 3. He's playing with one arm. He's got a shoulder injury. He's not the same player. You can clearly see it.
Yeah.
He's only really good in tight. He can't really stick handle. He only played the last 5 minutes of the third period. He missed a lot of time on the bench. He was hurt. Duclair's hurt. Barkov's hurt. Brykar had a nice game. Finally, he needed to step up. Montour's had a nice couple of games. But again, you look at what Vegas is doing, you look what Florida's doing. I can rattle off about 20 guys, not 20 guys, but probably like 15 guys on Vegas who got points right now. I go to Florida, it's like, okay, it's Bobrovsky's show. Kachuk's hurt. Where's everybody else gonna guys got to step up for this Florida Panthers team if they want a chance.
Give me a couple. Who needs to step up? Who could step up to make this series come back to Florida?
Well, Barkov's got to continue his trend. I mean, look, he had 2-point night. Look, that's a big game for him. He needs one. Essa Lindell for Florida. He had a phenomenal game, but he needs to start putting points on the board. Carter Verhaeghe, he's got 1 goal in the series for Florida. He needs to step up. Mm-hmm. Like Bennett, Reinhart, guys like that need to step up for Florida. But Vegas is just too deep. They just roll 4 lines, and any night anybody can be a hero. Last night it was Chandler Stevenson. We've seen Marchessault. I mean, I'm going to be interested to see what Marchessault and Carlson do in closeout games because these guys dominate closeout games. Combined, I think they have 8 goals in the playoffs.
What are your thoughts about as far as the league in this series? I mean, I haven't seen any numbers. I don't know if you have. How has it been received by the public? And are people watching this series?
Okay, so I talked about this last night in a pregame show with Chris on Full Press Hockey. We said there's 2 things, right? There's the real number, and then there's the inflated number.
Right.
And the inflated number is what a lot of people are looking at because you have the simulcast on TBS and True TV, which, by the way, they never said was going to be simulcast on any of those channels, but they're being simulcast on both those channels, even though it's on TNT. The rating is what it is because there's no network television. It's just cable. It's not because the way the deal was worked out with Warner, right. The game's not on CBS. Right. And that's where not having a national partner really hurts in this TV deal because you want the game on national television so everybody can watch it. When ESPN has it, the game's going to be on ABC. So it's that number's there. I mean, they're still doing good. People are watching, but I mean, they're still number 1 on cable, but still I think it would be a lot better if it was on network television, but the number is what the number is. But the series has been good. So I expect the Saturday night number to be pretty high.
is the casual fan there in hockey like it is, say, for the Super Bowl? Does it come out? I mean, is it important to them that Vegas is? I mean, listen, winning a championship, should they win in your 6th year, it doesn't get done very often. I think the Bucks in basketball did it when they had Lou Alcindor before he was Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I think they won early on in their existence, but I can't think of too many other, if any, major sports teams that have won that quickly into their existence. Does the fans care?
The fans in Vegas care. It's
the casual fan. Are the casual fans there? And is there a storyline that, they need a storyline that really motivates them, I think.
I mean, the storyline is the first-time major champion for either team. I mean, that's the storyline, and that's what you're getting. And, I don't know how much of it's been hyped up that Vegas, in their 6th year of existence, has a chance to win a Stanley Cup. I don't think that's been played up enough, and I agree. I think that's something that needed to be played up. It's like, look, this team's been in the final for the 2nd time in 6 years. What expansion team in any sport has done that?
Yeah. Like I said, well, twice. I can't think of any.
Right? Sure. I mean, 2 trips to the final, not to mention in your first season you go to the Stanley Cup final.
Yeah. Again, the Bucks might have in NBA because they went to the finals against the Celtics and lost, and they beat Washington.
But I will tell you this. The vibe you get around Vegas is similar to what you get with the Yankees. Yeah. Even though they haven't won, they go after these, like what they did after that. They're going after these guys like the Eichels, the Stones. They're in on everybody. They're spending money. They figure out the cap. I think people are mad because the LTIR stuff. It's like, well, every team can do it. Just because your team doesn't do it, don't mean it isn't legal. Like, everybody does it. And Eichel even said it best. He's like, I like that we're a hated team.
Oh, listen, I think the only bad publicity is no publicity, right? The old saying. And
exactly.
I think, loved or hated, who cares? You're getting people paying attention to you. That's what matters.
Exactly. So I think Vegas is in a good position. Look, everybody loved the Florida Panthers story. It's a great story, but Vegas is a better team, straight up.
Yeah, but that's what, at the end of the day, what matters. And, there's something I was going to bring up. You were talking about Vegas not getting the NHL and their broadcast partners not really talking up that fact that they're going to win a championship so quickly in their existence. I think it was different their first year when they made it to the final. I thought that was really a big talking point with the NHL and the broadcast partners, right?
It was a huge talking point.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my God, this expansion team made it to the Stanley Cup final, first year of existence. It never happened.
Yeah.
Like, look at this team. Like, what are they doing? Like, how is this going to be taken around the league if this team wins the Stanley Cup? That's why everybody wanted Washington to win.
Let's see. I got here. I think it was the next show I mentioned that the Ott was taking too much rubber, and the Stars need to get another goalie before the trade deadline. Okay. Probably. He's a big Dallas fan, so.
I mean, look, Ottinger played a lot this year. He was definitely hurt in the playoffs. Look, Wedgwood is what he is. He's a backup. They're definitely going to have to address the goalie situation. They have some things that they need to address too. Is Domi going to stay? Is Dadonov going to stay? So they got some things to work on there.
I'm not sure what this comment's about. Kenny thinks they should use softer pucks or just a round one. I'm not really sure.
No, stop.
This is funny, though. And Kenny, if you didn't check out my vlog this week, check it out because I went all ballistic on the hypocrisy of the PGA. But this is a little funny about the
Liv.
Shooting Liv. That's pretty funny. What else? So what's new in the coaching rumors? I mean, again, the Rangers still haven't hired a coach. We thought we'd have a coach by now when we talked again. The New York papers, we talked about Quenneville last week and whether he'll ever get another job again. For whatever reason, New York papers seem to keep needing to run headlines that said the Rangers' delay has nothing to do with the status of Quenneville.
And I'm going to tell you this right now. It absolutely does. It absolutely does.
So you think he will be brought in here if he's made available?
I've talked to multiple people. And that's the exact reason why there isn't a coach being hired. You're telling me you've interviewed Peter Laviolette twice, John Hines twice.
Yep.
And you're telling me you still don't know who your coach is.
Yep.
That tells me one thing. You're waiting for Joel Quenneville to get reinstated and meet with the league. And that's not going to happen until the Stanley Cup Final is over. There's qualified candidates. Laviolette is a qualified candidate. Hines is a qualified candidate despite he's probably not a great fit. Chris Knobloch's in the system. There's other guys around the league. You're telling me none of these guys are good enough for this team? You know who they want. It's plain and simple. Despite what the New York papers said about not having any interest in Joel Quenneville, the longer this goes on, the more it's about Joel Quenneville and the New York Rangers. Uh-oh. Did we lose Keith? Hopefully we didn't lose Keith, everybody. Well, like I said, it's more about Joel Quenneville and the Rangers than anything else. Yo, Jim Behringer's still here for you guys. I don't know if I can see any comments in here, but it's definitely about Quenneville, boys. It's definitely about Quenneville. I'm rolling, baby. I'm rolling right now. Keith Engel, I don't know where he went. Lost his connection. So what are we talking about here today, fellas? We got more hockey talk. Obviously, Joel Quenneville to the Rangers is a possibility. Again, multiple people talking about that. Then we have, it is CA. It is definitely the Jim Show right now. Taking over here, pregame, morning after postgame show here on TGI Sports Talk, Stream of Consciousness. I'm Jim Behringer. Keith Engel, I guess he lost his connection. But so we got that. Ryan Huska is going to be getting named to Calgary. No surprise there. Calgary hires Craig Conroy as the general manager. They hire within. No surprise. It's a smart move. It's the right move for them to do. Again, 5 years with the league as an assistant. He'll get this team going in the right direction. So he must have. He must have. I don't know what happened. But it's definitely my show right now until he comes back. Hopefully he comes back. But here's the thing: Calgary's going to be a better team. You got good players in Huberdeau and Weegar. You have that. So hopefully he makes it back. We need him back. He's a good host. So Calgary will be better. That'll be a key for them. So they have their coach. Now we're waiting on. Obviously, we have Anaheim, Greg Cronin. We'll see what they do. That's an interesting move by Pat Verbeek. I thought they wait until everything else was settled, but they hire a coach. What do other teams do around the league? Look, we're still waiting on Sheldon Keefe in Toronto. Obviously Shane Doan is the assistant general manager now. Yeah, Kenny. You know what, Rick? I think maybe you're right. I think the Live Talk did push him over the edge right now. But hopefully he comes back in. All right, guys, I got an update with Keith right now. He lost power all of a sudden at his house. So I'm rolling with you guys for right now. I'm going to try to talk with you guys here on TGI Sports Talk. So staying with the hockey, the Devils traded Damon Severson to Columbus, his second sign and trade in league history. Earlier in the week, the Blue Jackets acquired Ivan Provorov from the Flyers, 3-team trade. We saw Sean Walker and Kyle Peterson go to Philadelphia. along with picks and a nice prospect. The Kings re-signed Vladislav Gavrikov. I think we're going to see more movies with them, more moves like that. Oh, wait. Looks like he's back, folks.
Hey, guys, are you back? We lost power, so I apologize 100%. Jim, you still there, buddy? Let me see if I can get
I was rolling. I was rolling with the show.
You've been going? That's good.
I've been going.
Thank you for that. You're a good man. I'm on my phone, so we'll see what happens here until the power comes back on. Where did we leave off?
I was just saying. I left off talking about Quinville. I said I think it's the Rangers in Quinville. I think that's where it's probably going, and that's when we'll find a decision. I talked about Ryan Huska being, in Calgary, so he's an internal hire. No surprise there. I was just mentioning the trades of the past week. Yeah, I guess we got to give him a generator, definitely, big time. So
I'm getting very bad reception here, so hopefully you just keep going until
you get the power.
You can't go anymore.
All right, so as I was saying, the trades this week. So you had the 3-team trade.
I think you're froze on me.
Uh-oh. We got the 3-team trade in Columbus with LA. So they re-signed Gavrikov. I think we're going to see more like that.
Yeah, it's funny because I don't know if you can hear me. The new house has got a built-in Generac. If I was moved already, we wouldn't have this problem.
No, that's true. That's true. I just heard you, though. So Columbus is redoing their blue line. We talked about Mike Babcock. They're going to be more defensive-minded. They're going to be a little bit tougher. It's a good couple of moves there by Columbus to definitely bolster their blue line and be better. So we're going to see what happens with the Blue Jackets. It's a very, very tough division. And, it's definitely going to be an interesting offseason. I think we're going to see more moves like this because of the salary cap and what teams have to do.
Well, Jim, I don't know what we're going to do here because my reception's really bad. I don't even know if I'm coming in for you guys because I keep popping in and out.
I can hear you and I can see you.
Can anybody else see me? Because I can't even seem to share the comments, which is weird. Oh, now I can.
Yeah, you got it. I can't share them, so.
There we go. Well, maybe we're getting a little something better than I had.
All right, like NFL.
Usually my power comes right back on. I'm trying to turn the volume up because I can't hear you so good, but I did before.
Did you have the headphones on? Maybe
anyway, what else? Anything else you want to share?
So
I won't work with my phone. I'm on my phone.
Okay. So with CA saying, look, somebody made this great point. Maybe you don't need a great goaltender. You just need great goaltending in the playoffs. And I think that's what we're seeing right now. I think that's what we're seeing with Vegas. We're getting great goaltending. And their defense is something good. And you can see it's overwhelming Florida right now. So, look, it's going to be very, very interesting to see what we go. We're going to see what happens going forward with Vegas and their defense. So, look, the Stanley Cup Final, 1 win away from everything. Let's see if Vegas can wrap it up and go from there. But it's going to be very, very interesting.
We keep trying.
We're going to keep trying.
Well, Jim, I appreciate you coming in today. Sorry for the technical difficulties here.
Hey, no problem. I just tried to carry the show.
Once we get moved on June 30th, we'll have a generator, and this won't ever happen again.
Hey, absolutely. I tried to carry on as much
as
possible.
You did a good job. Thank you very much, and I'm going to try to carry on with the other topics I want to get into today, and we'll do the best we can, guys, till power comes on.
Absolutely, boys. Thanks for
You did a great job.
Me.
Thank you.
Hey, no problem, Keith. Anytime.
Oh, thanks. National Grid just told me we got reported outages in my area.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
Thanks, Jim. Bye-bye.
Bye.
How do I get you out of here, Jim? Are you able to get out of here? Bye-bye, Jim. All right, guys, I hope you can hear me all right. We'll try to carry on a little bit without Jim. You can tell me if you can hear me. Jim's gone for us. Jim should be gone. Can you guys hear me is what I want to know, or whether we want to try to carry on this way or not. If we don't, if the power comes back on, although I got a notice from National Grid, it's not going to be coming back on. So you guys hear me fine, according to Drew. At least that was a little while ago. Hopefully, Kenny's in the green room somehow. On a slight delay. All right, well, we'll continue on, I guess, and try to do this here in the dark. If for some reason my power comes back on, I will switch back. I'll take a second and switch back over to the computer. It'll make it much better. I hate to see me keeping my nose clean. Thank you, guys. Thanks for that. All right, thanks for hanging in there, guys. Sorry for the technical difficulties. We don't normally lose power long here. If it goes out, it usually goes out for a second and comes back on. So anyway, we'll jump into some Major League Baseball here. What do you say? I know Drew's licking his chops there, and he can help carry you guys can help carry the comments on. I don't have any of my notes, at least the computer notes to refer to, or the standings to refer to, unfortunately. So we'll have to kind of rough it. But let's talk MLB. Injuries are kind of the story of the day. Judge out, and listen, I am not confident Judge is going to be out for a short period of time. I've watched the Yankees for a long time, and I've got a bad feeling this is going to be a lingering issue, that he may be out for an extended period of time. You got Pete Alonso's going on for the Mets, 3 to 4 weeks. He's going to be out. God, who got hurt for Houston the other day? Hold on a second. Alvarez got hurt for Houston. So injury bug is really hitting some teams big time, and this is where you got to pick it up. Next man up. Yankees have got to find a way. Rizzo's gone into a horrible slump here early on. Early on in Judge's absence, by the way. LeMahieu's not picking it up. Volpe's is struggling at a bad time for this team. And the pitching, obviously, with Nestor out. Cole did pitch well again the other day, time out, even though he lost, because Devers has his number. So it's going to be a little tough for the Yankees right now. The Astros really fighting to get back into getting back into the race with the Rangers, but the Rangers continue to be a surprise, if you will. I'd like to turn this thing around, but I don't want to lose what I have here. What we got here? Technical difficulties are part of broadcasting business and management services. You got it. We haven't had that many on this show, here and there. Drew says Judge, Alonso, Alvarez. I did mention Chris Sale earlier. Chris Sale was starting to really round into form for Boston, and since he's gotten hurt, I don't know where Jane's on her way. I guess she's going up to the new house. I just got a text from her. I thought she was waiting for me, but I guess not. Brandon Belt, just as he was getting going, as Drew says. Good point. Polanco goes on. Jimenez is always freaking hurt, right? So again, just a plethora of injuries that are affecting the races. And I guess we'll kind of go around the league, Drew, and you could probably help me out because you're probably in front of your computer. We'll start in the American League East. We make some comments if we want to carry through here, and we'll talk about MLB, and then we'll move into maybe the NFL chatter. But MLB in the American League East, we've got obviously the Rays still playing well. As I said in the MLB update the other day, I've got to start giving them some credit. I mean, they played a third of the season, and they played great baseball. I was counting too much of it, I think, towards and maybe not maybe not wrongly, but because that's who you got to beat those teams, those bad teams. But they've continued to play good baseball, and they've done it with injuries. We just talked about injuries. They lost one of their best pitchers and have had injuries to some other key players as well, and they keep on rolling. Baltimore, I think, has won 3 or 4 in a row again, solidifying their hold on second place. The Yankees still 10 games over 500 after getting a win last night against the Red Sox. Toronto playing better baseball, and the Red Sox, I think, now starting to level off to where we thought they'd be. I thought they'd be one of the worst teams in the American League East or American League. They certainly aren't as bad as the A's and the Royals, but I do not see that team contending. Now, Yankee fans, and I'll get to some comments here in a second because you guys are going to help me out here a lot. The Yankee fans will tell you, oh, we don't need to worry because we got 3 wild cards. Well, let me tell you something. If Judge is out for an extended period of time, this pitching staff doesn't get straightened out. Severino's pitched terribly the last 2 times out. There's no guarantee they're going to make the playoffs because you've got Baltimore, you've got the Yankees, you've got the Blue Jays. I'll eliminate the Red Sox for a second. Nobody from the Central, but we got the Rangers. Well, one of those teams is going to be outranked or will win the division, but we could have, let's just say, the Rangers or the Astros, the Mariners, maybe the Angels. So you might have 6 teams vying for 3 spots, and there's no guarantee this team's going to make it. And they can't afford an extended dip here, and they need somebody to pick up the pace here. And Rizzo cannot keep slumping this way. You do have the shipping in bars you can do here. Good call. Thanks, Rick. Tough CA with tough losses for the contenders, stretched by injuries when the Aces lose. Good point. It is a tough stretch. Listen. Tampa 8-2. Oh, 8-2 in their last 10, I'm guessing, right? They're playing good baseball, man. I keep waiting for them to fade. There's a couple of teams. We're going to get to the West in a second. I keep waiting for them to fail. Their offense is tremendous. Baltimore 3 in a row. Toronto 7-3. They have righted the ship. I think I'm beginning to think my not suggestion, my prediction of Brian Schneider being the first manager fired probably will not come to fruition. Scott Surveys in Seattle better be careful, though, if they don't get their act together here pretty soon. We did talk about Baltimore falling below 500. They did play the Yankees tough. Devers again showed his dominance over Cole. AL Central, Minnesota just gets over 500, by the way. When I did the MLB update on Friday, they were leading the division 1 game under. They won a couple in a row to get a game over 500. White Sox playing better baseball of late and have one of the great feel-good stories of the year in help me out. Can't think of it. Kimbrel, not Kimbrel. Oh my God, it'll come to me. The relief pitcher battling cancer comes back. Detroit, by the way, 1-8. They've lost, I think, 7 or 8 in a row. They had themselves in contention in this weak division. I don't know what it is about the Central in both the AL and the NL, but it's terrible. The NL being the better one. 8 losses in a row. Thank you, Drew. And KC continues to die. KC maybe wants to give the A's a run for the money, but this division is probably, if the Twins lose this division, I hope it's to the White Sox, because the White Sox are the only team on paper, which we don't play the season on paper, right? But the only team on paper that should be able to contend with this team. And Minnesota's got their own injury issues. Correa's not playing well. Not even sure what his situation is health-wise. Polanco, we just talked about going on the DL. I don't know. I mean, Rocco Baldelli could be in trouble there as well. We get out west, and you're not going to get a wild card team from this. You know, when I say the teams that are going to be in contention for the wild card, it's very unlikely, unless the White Sox and Twins both play better baseball. There's not going to be a contender coming from this Central Division for sure. By the way, Drew, I don't know if you heard me. You guys, I think you guys could hear me. If this happened a few weeks from now, we wouldn't have this, because we do have a Generac at our new townhouse. So we would have kicked right over to that. Drew's helping me out here with some records. That helps me a lot. Texas just continues. Listen, well, they've been winning 7-3, and the Astros have gone into a little bit of a tailspin. I believe they'd lost 4 in a row, if I'm not mistaken. Don't know what their 10-game record was. But they have Texas has extended their lead. I've got to, and I kind of started my mea culpa on this last week, and I continued it on Friday's MLB update. You know, maybe it's time for me to say this team's for real. Part of the problem with Texas going into the season is their on-base percentage was one of the worst in baseball last year. Even early in the year this year, it was hovering around 300. Last I looked, they were around 340, maybe a little bit better, which is much more likely to produce real good offense. And man, they're leading the major leagues in runs scored. So there's something to be said for that. The Astros, some bad injuries. McCullers had a setback, so he won't be back anytime soon, most likely. Alvarez goes out. I don't remember the extent of his injury. And thank you for posting that next one, Drew. We'll get to that when we get there. I want to talk about this a little bit longer with the Rangers and such. I think Seattle is, to Drew's point about them dropping. I'm going to get to that Oakland thing. Seattle's 3-7. They started to right the ship, and then they've taken a big step backwards. And again, when you start seeing teams that were expected to contend, the Phillies last year are a great example. There's only so many things you can do. You can fire the manager, which could be Scott Servais was in trouble last year, if you remember, before the Seattle got hot. It's entirely possible they will use that as their spark. You can bring up kids from the minor leagues, which the Yankees might do with Peraza. The Mets have tried to do with Batty and Vientos, and if I'm saying his name right without reading it. And Alvarez has played well. You get a little spark there, although the Mets aren't showing it, so maybe I shouldn't be counting that. There's only a handful of things you do. You make a big trade. There may not be big trades to make. So Seattle's going to get back in this race, and they are too good to be a game under 500 and lagging this far behind not just the division lead, but the wild card standings. I expect this team to make a run. It may be with a different manager. I'm trying to think of guys and candidates that might be a good, replacement for Servais. There's nobody that really, excites me as a potential guy, unless they've got somebody in-house that I'm not thinking about. So it's possible that they will make a move here. That might be the team to watch out for. As far as the A's back there, they've increased their win pace by 8 games to 39, which would still, would still be a record, because I believe if my math is correct, that would leave them with 121 losses. Actually more, 123 losses. So still looking to set a record there. What do you got here? NL, this is CA. NL only looked better because everyone in the league is still alive for the playoffs. And listen, I think the NL's even worse.
well, I guess we're talking about the NL Central. The entire NL, except for the Braves and the Diamondbacks, were a big surprise. Drew and I both thought they'd be a surprise team this year, but maybe a year away from contending. They may be a year ahead of where we thought they were, which we'll get to in a second. But as far as the two Centrals, yes, everybody's alive in the Central because they're so bad. And the secondary teams, the Mets have really been bad. The Phillies have really been bad. The Marlins, a big surprise. We're going to move to that NL East right now. The Braves, I think, again, are the class of the National League. I'm still going to say at this point, a third of the way into the season, the Astros and the Braves will meet in the World Series. The Marlins doing everything they can, 8-2 in their last 10. Still, again, not being able to see the number, and I'm going to say it's still a pretty big negative run differential. So I think they've moved, if I'm not wrong, Drew, 10 games over 500 or close to it. Probably not 10, maybe it's 8. Been a very streaky team, having trouble scoring runs. Luis Arraeza is a great story, but let's calm down the 400 talk. It's June 11th, okay? Let's wait to August and see if he's, in the 390s before we start talking about that. The Mets are a mess, 3-7. Big win last night. Buck Showalter had a closed-door session with his team. Billy Epler was asked about the security, and a lot of times when you get that vote of confidence, they call it the dreaded vote of confidence for a reason. I wish I could keep this from falling down. It can be a bad thing, but there's no way they're firing Buck Showalter. Not a year and a third into his tenure here. This isn't Buck's fault in my mind. If Buck's got a fault here, it's that he continues to roll out the same lineup too much. He continues to bat Lindor third. Move him down the lineup if he's not hitting. Play the kids and look for a boost. I want to see Alvarez behind the plate more, not just because I picked him up on my fantasy team, by the way. But he's played well. His defense has been, I think, okay. Better than they would have expected probably at this point. But just because Navarez is back, I don't see any reason that Alvarez shouldn't get the bulk of the starts there. Get Batty in the lineup more. Move him up in the lineup. Get Vientos in the lineup more. Well, you probably will see him in the lineup more now with Alonso out, obviously. Sorry, I just have an itch on the bottom of my nose here. And the pitching, listen to that. They've made some big changes in their bullpen. Their bullpen has been, except for Robertson, probably been a disaster. So I do expect the Mets to, it's funny how you say mess. I don't know if you made that, if you wrote it that way on purpose, Drew, or not, but that's very funny. The Nationals remain dead, 2-8, 6 losses in a row. Yes, they're fading to where they should be. And you did talk about the NL Central, which we did figure out, which we're going to go to right now. The NL Central. Milwaukee's 3-loss streak lets the Pirates right back. They have the Pirates. Listen, I give the Pirates credit. I thought they were fading and they would not rebound significantly from that slide. And they did go 7-3 in their last 10. They jumped back into the division lead. Still not in love with this team. I'm a big Brewers fan. Again, they just don't have the offense. Craig Counsell, maybe. I doubt Craig Counsell's in trouble in Milwaukee because I've said he's one of the better managers, maybe the best manager in Major League Baseball. And I do believe he's pretty well viewed pretty well within the organization and certainly in the community. So I doubt very much that he'll be in trouble there. I'll go back to your thing. I want to say good morning, Dave Guyette. Good to have you with us this morning, Dave. We're having some technical issues, so I had to switch to my phone. So hopefully everything is going well. It seems to be okay on my part, my side. Back to the Central. The Cards back to losing 3-7. I mean, Marmol, he could be in trouble. But to me, this isn't the manager's fault. They made a horrible decision in signing Contreras to be their catcher. And everybody in baseball knew that he wasn't a great behind the plate. He wasn't great calling games. He wasn't, great having relationships with pitchers. He's a good hitter, but everyday catcher, no. And they've had quite a soap opera there as far as the Contreras situation. Jordan Montgomery is pleading with everybody he knows that he's better than a 2-7 pitcher or whatever his record is now. I've said forever, Jordan Montgomery's a decent pitcher. He is not somebody who's going to help you turn your franchise around. If he's one of your top couple pitchers, you're probably in trouble. The Yankees traded him last year for Bader, and it was a good deal, even though Bader got hurt and couldn't play in the playoffs, because Jordan Montgomery wasn't making the Yankees postseason roster last year. Could the Yankees use Jordan Montgomery right now? Yes, but you can't look back in hindsight. He's a decent major league pitcher. He's not going to go deep into games. He needs to be a back of the rotation starter. 4 at best, 5 would be ideal for him. But just not a good place for him to be. The Cardinals are going to have trouble coming back from this. Going backwards to the AL West, Seattle is like Houston, inconsistent hitting. Agreed. Houston's offense has been atrocious for the most part, except for Alvarez. I don't even know. Does Abreu have? Because I don't have the numbers in front of me right now, obviously. But last time I was talking about the Houston offense, which was only a week or so ago, Abreu didn't have a home run. So, yeah, Seattle's having some problems there. J-Rod, who started to get his act together a little bit the last few weeks, has been a big disappointment. I think the whole Seattle offense has been a disappointment. Their pitching is still close to elite. Their starters are all really good. They're really young, and there's no reason this team should not be competing for the top of this division. To the NL West. And good morning again, Dave Guyette. I see you posted that again, just in case you didn't see it. I said good morning. Good morning to you. Well, good to have you with us up there. And I think you're in Gloversville now, Dave. The West, Arizona is still exceeding expectations. Yep, I agree. 8-2, 4 in a row. And I believe they've got like there you go, 2.5 games lead. Thank you, Drew. You're really helping me out a lot here this morning. Padres trying 3 in a row. Padres still, again, Bob Melvin's another guy that well-respected, great baseball man. He was thrown a tough task of all these big personalities. And I feel like it's going to be tough for this team to battle back, but they need their pitching to be better than it's been as a whole. Manny's out for a while. Tatis has played okay since he's been back. The Giants surprising me a little bit, being a few games over 500, at least when I looked before. Colorado is going nowhere. They're ready to start dumping players. I mean, if Chris Bryant were healthy, I would think he'd be on the block. One of the worst signings in a long time, well, outside of Carlos Rondon, which we won't get into today, is Chris Bryant in Colorado on both sides. Chris Bryant had no business going to Colorado. He could have got a little bit less money, maybe guaranteed, and he could have played on a contending team in New York. The Giants were after him. He could have done himself a lot better than sticking himself on a bad team in Colorado where you become irrelevant. You like to collect a paycheck, and he hasn't been healthy, by the way, so maybe it's best those teams didn't get him. But maybe his health would have been better if he signed in a better situation. Drew, I'll give you credit. You and I do believe Alan also had said this to me, and I kind of poo-pooed it, so shame on me. That Cincinnati had some good kids ready in the minor leagues to come up and contribute, and I kind of dismissed that. So, but you were right on top of this. If I'm remembering right, in our preview show, you were talking about the Cincinnati youth movement. They're a contender, but everybody is in that NL Central. but they've done very, very well. And again, it's pretty much all on the offensive side. But Spencer Steer played well. Matt McClain came up, played really well at shortstop, hit the ball really well. He'll move to second base, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, now with Del Cruz, as you say here, getting called up to play shortstop. So the Reds may be onto something here. Probably not going to be ready to contend now, but they're going to be better than I thought they were. So I'll give you kudos there. Northeast Streaming Sports, whether that's Mac or Linda, welcome aboard. And sorry we're on our phone today because after I left you guys on your show this morning, and I guess about an hour into my show, the power died here. So I'm roughing it on the phone here this morning, trying to get through the show and not leave all my great followers hanging. So thanks for popping in. And his comment is, Rangers are going to win the World Series. Here's my comment about the Rangers. Great offense. As I said, the guys that they signed to big contracts are contributing really well. They've had some great production from Young at third base, where last year he had some injuries. He's really playing, I think, very good. They've improved their on-base percentage, which I think is huge. Was huge for this lineup, and I thought it was something that might hold them back this year. I'm not going to pretend I didn't say this team would finish under 500. They're proving me wrong. We got a third of the season gone, and they're got the second best record in baseball, if I remember right, from the standings this morning. My worry with the Rangers is the starting staff with DeGrom out, obviously, for probably through next season. I'd be shocked if he pitched at all next year. Their starting pitching will be a little thin. Dunning can kind of go back and forth between the bullpen, and he may have to start. But their bullpen, while it's been okay up till now, they don't have a lot of guys who can are swing and miss guys, which in today's game is shocking because everybody strikes out a ton. So they may have to go out and make a trade. And I don't know who they're going to trade, but they may have to go out and make a couple moves for some relievers for that bullpen, some guys who can make batters miss. That might be one thing that holds them back. But I do think they're going to be a potential contender here, and I kind of agree with Drew's comments here. If I can get it up here. There we go. Rangers probably not going to the series, but certainly worth watching. Agree. You know, I was wrong. I was a big miss on the Rangers, and I will always admit my mistakes. This is one of the bigger ones that I had. And by the way, picking up Bruce Bochy, I probably should have given that a little bit more credence than I did. The man can win. We know that. But anyway, they certainly worth watching and on their way to for their next couple of years if they can get their pitching to equal their hitting. I agree. Their hitting is really, really good. And my one problem with their hitting was the on-base percentage and the length of the lineup. Well, the length of the lineup has gotten a lot better with Young's production, Lowe giving his normal steady production, Garcia playing well out in the outfield. I'm missing somebody out there too. Tavares, I think, has played well. And Heim still got some pop. He needs to improve that batting average. I think to be able for them to really make that lineup consistent and continue this pace throughout the year. But so far, I'm wrong. Abbott's been great to see again. Hadn't seen him since he was at Virginia. I haven't followed Abbott a whole lot, but I don't disagree there. By the way, Duran is another guy. Another guy that in that Ranger lineup who he was hurt. He may still be hurt. I'm not sure, Drew. But when he comes back, from all indications, he'll be the everyday shortstop when he comes back, and he does look like a star in the making, and not somebody that was on my radar to make as big a contribution as he already has this year. And probably will going forward. So great job there. What do we got here? Oh, Abbott is one of the few Red pitchers that looks legit. The Reds. I got to start paying a little more attention to their roster because, quite honest with you, it's not a team that I've paid a lot of attention to. As I did not expect a lot out of. I really thought David Bell would be in trouble this year, but David Bell had, he'd made the playoffs with his team a couple of times early in his tenure. The last few years have been a little rough, but again, it's not his fault. I mean, the management tore the team down, and maybe they did it the right way. After all, when you look at this, and hopefully, and David Bell's a good guy. It's a good baseball family, right? And with his dad Buddy and his granddad Gus. Do I still have Keith's feed? I do. Hope you guys do. Have you lost me, Rick, on Facebook? I hope not. Because it looks like I'm still getting comments and people, I think, commenting on my comments. So the Reds minor system has been replenished greatly from all their dump-off trades in the last couple of years. Definitely a true statement. And sometimes this might be the way to go. There's been a few teams that have done this. If you remember, the Astros did it before they started their run here 6 years ago, 7 years ago, whatever it was now. If you remember, they had the same type of sell-off of the limited talent they had then and had some of the worst records in baseball for a couple of years, and they've turned into a juggernaut and a mini dynasty, if you will, as far as contention-wise, and staying, one of the elite teams year after year. But not without some pain. So maybe that's the way to do it. Maybe the Pirates are doing it the right way, although they do have some guys long in the tooth. When you look at guys like Rich Hill, who graduated a year behind me in high school, as I like to say, and Andrew McCutcheon and whatnot, I think the Reds are probably doing it the right way. And I do think it's kind of following the Astros model from a few years ago. And maybe even the Rangers. When you think about it, the Rangers may have built themselves the same kind of way outside of that bad signing. I'm sorry. I will give the Rangers all kinds of credit, but that does not dismiss the fact that the DeGrom move was horrible, and it will hurt them. That money that they're going to be stuck with for DeGrom is going to hurt them. The Texas Rangers aren't the Yankees or the Steve Cohen, it's the Mets, or, they don't have unlimited resources just to go over the cap as much as they want. So being stuck with that albatross of a contract is going to hurt them, I think, a lot. Bruce wasn't going to manage again except for Texas, according to CA, family ties and values. Well, that might make a lot of sense. Bruce Bochy, I didn't think Bruce Bochy would come back at all. I really didn't. To be honest with you, when he left, don't you hate it when people say, to be honest with you, like they're not always honest? I hate that, and I find myself doing it a lot lately. I apologize. But to be honest with you, I didn't think Bruce Bochy would manage again. He looked old and worn out when he left San Francisco. And I think that's it's good for baseball, great for Texas, obviously. And he's just here now enhancing his Hall of Fame resume. He's now delayed his candidacy for the Hall of Fame, but I think if he wins another championship in Texas at some point, that's well worth the delay. He's we talk about the best managers in baseball. He might be the best manager in baseball. I talk a lot about Craig Counsell, but Bruce Bochy, though, to me, is probably the best manager in baseball. If I had to give you 5 guys right now, the best managers in baseball, I'm still going to put Counsell in there, and I'll put him at 5, but I'll put Bochy at 1. Maybe Torey Lovello is second in Arizona. Kevin Cash, who I hate to give too much credit to because I got a problem with Kevin Cash that I can't get around, but I'm going to put him in my top 5. So that'll be my top 5 for now. And I don't mean disrespect to Dusty Baker or anybody else, but that's going to be my top 5 for the moment. we'll talk more about this going forward because I was going to talk about a lot about manager rankings today, but without my cheat sheet, I don't have a lot of shot. Rick is back. Good to have you back. I hope the feed is doing okay. Again, you're right. The Orioles are another team that has done this the same way, kind of torn everything down. One of the reasons Buck left there or they parted ways was because they tore the team apart. Royals not working out so much, but the Royals have done this before as well. If you remember when they went to back-to-back World Series and won one, before that they had the same kind of tear down as I talked about the Astros doing. So they were ahead of that Astro curve, but well done. The Pirates I'm not so sure about, though. And maybe it's just a matter of these kids getting... And I'll check out the Pirates farm system here a little bit more as we talk about this. But to me, they don't have... I mean, they're in contention more so than the Reds are, at least for now. I mean, I wouldn't doubt that the Reds might pass them. It's possible if these kids produce and their pitching kind of catches up with their hitting young stars as well. But the Pirates got too many older guys that they're kind of relying on here, at least now. They got a bunch of stuff coming from the police. Got to have to do with this outage. Let me just see what's what here. Maybe I can give you guys an update. Appraisal. Oh, that's for the house. Appraisal requested. Oh, geez, we got to let people in our house again. Oh, my God. Sorry. Tired of people tramping through my house. They come in here, they leave every light in the house on. They open the doors, leave them open that aren't supposed to be open. Anyway, my problem. So we'll see about the Pirates. We got a little time left. We'll talk about the fantasy update. We'll talk about the NFL just a little bit. And Kenny brought up, I don't know if Kenny's still with us, but Kenny brought up the Live PGA merger, which I went off on in a vlog earlier this week. If you guys want to check that out, you can feel free to do it. Fantasy update. Keith and a nail biter this week, 9-9. Came back, by the way. I've been trailing by like double digits most of the week. We're having a rough week at 4-13, but we'll still hold on to second place. And Drew is creating more distance between himself and fourth place with a 13-5 score so far. As we know, things can end quickly or change quickly, right, Drew? My sights are set on fourth place and fourth place only. You know, that's all I'm thinking about right now, and I'm trying to have consistent weeks. Let's say, gotta go. Putting boat in the water. Nice. Have a great weekend. Have a great weekend yourself. CA, right after the show, I'm going to be heading up to the new townhouse and doing a little bit of work. My wife's going up to do some patching and painting. People took things off the walls and whatnot. I'm busy cleaning up the back deck, which they have not really taken good care of, but it's coming out beautifully with some of the work I'm doing on it. Rick, with the stay off my lawn syndrome, I got to tell you, this is more than that with me. When we're talking, I'll get into this. If we don't get into the NFL, I don't even care today. We will. I won't go on too long here because go back and watch the blog. Maybe this is part of my get off my lawn syndrome, but it's not the same. I mean, this whole hypocrisy of the PGA and Jay Monahan is ridiculous. He's thrown his players who have stood by their convictions, like Tiger Woods, who I'm not a big fan of Tiger Woods, but Tiger Woods turned down upwards of $700 to $800 million from LIV because of what they stand for and what the Saudis are doing as far as sports washing their reputation and trying to use sports, and in this case, golf, to do it. And discounting, and all the players that have gone there, discounting the feelings of 9/11 families and the atrocities that have been created or have occurred under the Saudi regime. the killing of Agassi. I'm saying his name wrong. I'll say Agassi, the writer. Anybody who writes and doesn't agree with you, you go out and assassinate them. Women's rights. I said this the other day, and the players who are involved with liver are so stupid. I mean, Brooks Koepka's wife walks around PGA events, scantily dressed, very provocative. Look, it's fine. I don't have a problem with that. Go try and do that in Saudi Arabia. Oh my God! And Bryson DeChambeau, when he's asked about the 9/11, there's a 9/11 survivors families, not survivors, but it's a family, it's a group, right? Put together, coalition, let's say, who have spoken out against this. First of all, in the very beginning, with players that were going there, and then this merger in general. And it's tone deaf. Some of these players are so tone deaf. Bryson DeChambeau is interviewed, and he's talking about how he hopes that this merger will help foster some forgiveness for the Saudis for some of their past atrocities. And asked specifically about 9/11, he goes, "Man, it was a long time ago. Time to forgive. It may be time to forgive them." And I'm paraphrasing. But he also said, "Everybody makes mistakes." Listen, I made a lot of mistakes in my life. None of them involved flying planes into a freaking building and killing 3,000 people, and we're not just going to forget about that. Phil Mickelson was probably my favorite golfer of all time. He's dead to me. Dead to me. CA, thanks for popping in. Oh, sorry, you sent me on a rant in the wrong direction. Referring to people going through your house. I mean, Jesus, I get it. Inspector was here last Thursday. Now he had to come back yesterday to get the radon test. Now they're scheduling the appraisal, which needs to be done. But now we got to go through and get everything straightened away again. I got to see when they're trying to do this. My wife's going to have a freaking fit when she sees this. Anyway. Let's talk. We got a few minutes left. I'll talk a little bit about D-Hop, and then we're going to move on. I'm not going to go over, I don't think, today. Rick, I think D-Hop and Cook. We'll start with Cook because we've already talked about Hopkins. Hopkins is going to visit the Patriots today, visited Titans last week. He wants anywhere between $14 million and over what Beckham signed for with the Ravens, which was $15 million. There's only a handful of teams out there who got a chance to sign him. Patriots have the cap to do it. They got to manipulate a little bit, but they got $12 million right now. They could probably make some maneuvers and come up with the money. The Lions, very intriguing possibility. The Eagles, they're not going to sign him. The Ravens, I think they might. We talked about the Bills and the Chiefs are probably his preferred destinations. They don't have the money. The Chiefs have got $1 million plus salary cap, I believe, left. And the bill is just over 3. So I don't think that's going to happen. I do see your comment there, Rick. Or Drew, will go backwards, I promise. And Cook, the scouts think Cook is done. He ran for 1,000 yards again last year. He's still one of the better running backs in football. But I think he's going to have a tough time finding a landing place with the money he might demand as well. Probably the Dolphins. And the Cowboys might be the best landing spots for him. And let's see, I'll go back to Drew's comment here. Carroll's story. I did go through some rookies, too, on the MLB show last week. And we'll do it again, Drew, when we get closer to the halfway point. Carroll's playing some great baseball. He's definitely the best rookie in baseball. Bobby Miller has looked really good, too. I had a couple other guys that and they're not hitting my mind right now. And I threw away my notes from the MLB show, which I should keep for Sundays. But playing very well. Carroll is going to be one of the greats. Rick appreciated Cook's contribution, but he's feast or famine. That's a good point. And this is a team that's, they went 13-4 last year. This is a team that thinks they're probably ready to make a run, and I think they can add some players that they may want to add unless they subtract this salary from their cap. So whether it turns out to be, I don't know who was waiting in the wings there for or behind Cooks, but when it comes to running backs in the NFL, a lot of them are plug and play today, except for a handful of guys. Cooks is good. Some talk about him going to Buffalo. Again, they don't have the money. It'd be very interesting if he went there and competed with his brother for playing time. But I don't think they've got the cap to get him. I'm not even sure that the Dolphins will spend the money to get him, but I think the Dolphins, where he'd be going to his home state, and I think the Cowboys also will be a player here because they got rid of Elliott. Pollard's never had carried a full load there. They're going to probably run the ball more, I would think, with McCarthy calling the plays there. And I think Cook could be a potential guy to share some time with Pollard there. But he'll probably go someplace we don't expect it. Hopkins is not A.J. Brown, so it wouldn't work out with Lamar. I don't know. I mean, A.J. Brown is a great player. D. Hops was A.J. Brown at one point. He's not anymore. He's 31 years old. He's lost some of that speed, the downfield speed, if you will. He's a great route runner. I don't see how D. Hopkins, if he gets on a team, if he stays healthy and stays on the field, can't help any one of the teams. Maybe not the Eagles. They don't need him. But I'm not confident in Lamar that Hopkins doesn't make Baltimore a better team. I think he makes almost anybody a better team. He runs the best routes, some of the best routes in the NFL. He'll make the Patriots better tomorrow. I want him to sign with the Patriots. I hope it works out. You forget about the Bill O'Brien issues that he had with Houston before he left. Bill O'Brien's not the head coach. Bill O'Brien's the offensive coordinator, and it's a totally different dynamic that they'll be dealing with. And the fact that he decided to meet with the Patriots tells me that's not that big a deal. It's probably going to come down to the money, and he wants an opportunity to play. Right? He's not going to get that with the Eagles. He wants to play and contribute. And the Patriots have to evaluate Mac Jones this year. So it makes sense to me from a Patriots standpoint. Makes them better this year. Gives them a chance at least to be a playoff contender. And it helps them evaluate Mac Jones. It's not fair to Mac Jones. This is a huge year. After this year, they have to decide whether to pick up his fifth-year option. This year, either makes or breaks Mac Jones in New England. And for the team's sake and for Mac Jones' sake, they should give him as many weapons as possible. Madison is the heir apparent to Cooks apparently in Minnesota. Thanks for that, Rick, and also thank you for contributing through today. Sorry about your connection. Sorry about this too, guys. As we get ready to wrap up here, Cooks. What's this say? Cook needs a good front line to be worth taking on, but his injury history will count against him. Don't doubt that as well, and as will the money he contends. Cowboys will be smash mouth football. Mr. Flintstone has got the ability to figure out a passing game. Not sure. It seems like you're complimenting him here where you normally do not. So, in any event, guys, I'm going to wrap it up. It's been an interesting show as we haven't always been able to. Well, hopefully this will come out all right. And I apologize for the technical difficulties, but unfortunately, National Grid has got a little issue here. So I'm going to head out. You guys have a great weekend. I appreciate you so much. You have no idea. You've really helped me out carrying this the last hour. Without power, it's hard when I have nothing to refer to. That's what I thought you might have forgot part of that word there. Keith froze just as he was about to go off the air. Ironic. That's too funny. I didn't know I was froze. Guys, if you're still with me, have a great weekend. If you're not, thanks for participating. Thanks for helping me carry this last hour of the show. You guys are the best. We'll see you next week with the Sunday Stream of Consciousness and a few times during the week as well. Have a great, great, great Sunday.